Right, Phillip, please. Where's Tanya Mathias? No. She's in the Saxon seconds. She was told to find out now, so she should be there. Right, okay. Right, Phillip. An application about International Men's Day.
Yes, indeed, Mr. Chairman. My pitch is a fairly straightforward one, in the sense that every year since I can remember, certainly since I've been a member of this House, which is 10 years now, we've had an annual debate, and in the last few years, this committee has granted one. In fact, I think I was on the committee when it did grant the debate for International Women's Day. And that's been held every single year. And so I thought that in the spirit of gender equality, it would only be right to have a debate to commemorate International Men's Day, which conveniently falls on Thursday the 19th of November, which is a date when you may or may not have some time to allocate, so it will be very fitting. Because, of course, not only do we have International Women's Day, we also have women and equality questions every month in the Chamber, which we don't have for men. So the opportunity for men to raise issues that are important to them is very limited. And just to give you a flavour, Mr. Chairman, of the type of things that may come up and which will be part of International Men's Day, I'm not entirely sure why it's so humorous, but to discuss issues such as men's shorter life expectancy, wider male health issues, many of which go unreported through embarrassment of men to sort of go along and talk about these things, the high suicide rate amongst men, the propensity for violence against men. There's many male victims of domestic violence, again, as something that goes very much unreported because of lots of embarrassment about it. The underachievement of boys in education compared to girls, the issues around father-child relationships, and often the way that fathers sometimes feel they don't get a fair crack of the whip in terms of custody of their children and things like that. These are all issues that affect an awful lot of people around the country, whether people agree with some people's views or not. I think it's important that the House of Commons debates these issues. I think people can recognise that they are all very real issues for many people in the country, and so in the spirit of gender equality, given that we have the debate each year on International Women's Day, which I suspect will continue under this committee, I thought it would only be fair that we had an opportunity to debate these issues under the flag of International Men's Day, which is this year on Thursday the 19th of November.
Thank you very much. Questions? Jess?
You have to excuse me for laughing, that the idea that men don't have the opportunity to ask questions in this place is a frankly laughable thing. As I say, as the only woman on this committee, it seems like every day to me is.
Well, I wasn't making, with respect, I wasn't making that point. I wasn't making the point that men don't have an opportunity to ask. I was about men's issues. There's a very big difference between men raising issues and the raising of men's issues.
But one could raise men's issues in any single one of the question sessions. So men's health, absolutely. So prostate cancer, that could be raised in men's questions, couldn't it?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I very much look forward to these arguments being deployed when we come to consider a debate on International Women's Day, because exactly the same arguments could be raised for International Women's Day, that women's health issues, that equality issues could be raised in women and equality questions in other forms. So all I ask is for an equal crack of the whip, that if those issues can be raised without having a debate on International Men's Day, then obviously the same issues can apply for when it comes to International Women's Day. But those arguments have never won the day before this committee.
I just think that it's worth pointing out the idea that this chamber, that these houses, both of them, in any way reflect gender equality, is to me a frankly laughable thing. And so in the fight for equality, I'm not sure the men on this list necessarily have that much to fight for.
Bob, please.
Yeah, I can empathise with a lot of the issues that you're concerned about. I mean, I think many people would say that people don't talk about testicular cancer or prostate cancer for fear of embarrassment. So that's quite clearly an issue that needs a lot more public debate. My concern is the balance of debate. On the list of potential speakers,
All men.
that the fact that they're all men doesn't matter so much. What does matter is that there doesn't seem to be a preponderance of people from across the House. They seem to be concentrated from the Conservative Party. Now, that either means that the Conservative Party clearly take these issues seriously and the other parties don't, or more likely that you haven't been able to gain people from the other parties that would sign up.
I think, to be fair, Bob, there are 3 members of the DUP on
From the
this.
DUP, I understand that, yeah. I'm thinking of this.
Well, Mr. Chairman, it's a fair point, and of course, if I was made aware of this issue relatively recently. I raised it in the business questions with the, and so really what that reflects is the number of people I managed to see in between business questions and having to get the form in on 5 o'clock on the same day. And I would like to think that getting that many names in such a short period of time shows there's actually quite an appetite for a debate. And I'm sure I would be astonished if there were not members from across the House who have constituents who are concerned about the issues that I've just raised.
Philip, please.
Yes, I mean, the points that Ms Phillips has raised would contribute, no doubt, to the debate. Those who don't feel that men's issues should be given an airing can put that point of view. And part of the point of this committee is to generate lively debates where people disagree with each other, not just a parade of people coming out with the same views, all in agreement. So from that point of view, the controversial element of Mr Davies' application would, I thought, be quite attractive. But I wanted to ask Mr Davies whether he had asked the Leader of the House for time to debate this in government time, and what the response from the government was.
Yes, well indeed, and we've had a lively debate here before the committee, which bodes well for a debate in the chamber, I would contend, Mr Chairman. I did ask for a debate, and it's perfectly clear the government aren't going to give any time for such a debate, and feel that the appropriate vehicle for such a debate would be the Backbench Business Committee. Again, it seems that the government's view is that given that it's this committee that allocates the time for International Women's Day debate, then this is the appropriate body that would consider a debate on International Men's Day.
Okay, David, please.
Well, I was just going to raise that very point that you mentioned in passing in answer to the previous question from Jess about that you'd asked the Leader of the House for a debate in government time and being directed to this committee. So moving on to the venue for this debate, as far as you are aware, where have previous debates on International Women's Day been held?
Well, look, Mr Chairman, it's not for me to tell this committee where it should and shouldn't hold the debates for the time it gets allocated. That's a decision for you, and I'll respect whatever decision that you give. My pitch, though, is that I just ask for parity with what the committee does for International Women's Day. That's my pitch, that I see that the two go side by side and hand in hand, and all I ask is for an even crack of the whip for both of us. That's my pitch. But obviously, I'm not coming here to demand. All of that's up to you.
I think the point that Bob made is very, very relevant, and that is that you have an application with supporters numbered 1 to 13. 3 of whom are from the DUP and the remaining 10 are from the Conservative Party, Phillip. So, therefore, we are normally looking, when we're granting time for debate, the normal criteria that we use is that there is cross-party support for the debate. So what we would ask for, in pursuance of your application, that you try and get some members from other parties in order to sign up to the debate.
Well, I'm prepared if I don't know if this is seemly at the committee, but I'm sure you'll rule me out of order if it's not, Mr Chairman. Well, I'm prepared to cut you a deal, which is that if you reserve the 19th of November, I'll go away and get some names from other political parties to satisfy your requirement.
Well, it's a very interesting proposition, but it's not one we've taken up with anyone else so far.
We don't know whether it will be offered to 19th, to be fair.
I don't care about men's issues, it's that I'm hoping for parity. myself.
Hear, hear.
I absolutely care about men's issues. And when I've got parity, and when women in these buildings have parity, you can have your debate.
Oh, Mr. Chairman, if I can just make the point,
And that will take an awfully long time.
I'm not requesting a debate on representation within the House of Commons. I'm asking for debates on men's issues, and the list of issues I gave earlier, I would like to think people can recognise are genuine issues and actually are very, very rarely debated in the House of Commons. Very rarely debated in the House of Commons.
Right. Well, thank you very much, Philip. Thank you very much indeed.